Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Elevation Cast. Today, I'm joined by Jason from Figures UK, who's going to tell us all about the background and the world of accountancy. So, Jason, lovely to speak with you again.
I'd love to speak to you.
Absolutely. So, tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit about Figures. Where did Figures come from, and what's your background?
Yeah, so my background, I did many years in corporate and management accounting, then retrained as a practice accountant, ended up running a practice for a period of time, and then I decided that I saw a gap in the market, and then I set up Figures UK in 2007. Where I saw there was a gap in the market, I could see the technology and finance coming together. So therefore, we started looking and working with on online cloud platforms quite an early stage. So we was using different softwares, receipt extraction softwares, things like that. Back in the day, it was putting them in a bag. Receipt Bank was one of those softwares, now called Dext, where you send it off or scan it yourself and then upload it, and it sort of extracted the data. So we could see early on that everything was going to be going on an online sort of platform, not the Excel spreadsheet, and then using other software to sort of publicize the account. So we sort of got involved in early adoption in various softwares to do that. So we sort of Figures UK evolved from that part in effect. We started looking at sort of like Zero at the early days. We're probably one of the first to use Zero in the UK. We was using, Free Agent before that. We was using some other platforms before that, but we could see that the Zero platform was sort of emerging, sort of replacing the likes of Sage. And obviously the other sort of competitor that is out there is QuickBooks. As a practice, we've just decided to put everything into the Zero platform for speed and efficiency, then say that we know all these different softwares because yes, we know how they all work. That's what we do, but for sort of training purposes of the team and obviously clients, it's easy to be masters of one product and services than say that you know them all.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. And I think they must all have different terminology, different ways of pulling in the data and exporting the data. And so it must get quite, especially when there's probably multiple different updates to their software throughout the years. So trying to keep on top of all these different softwares it's almost a full-time job in itself, just to try and understand the software. So I think you've completely done right there to kind of specialize in one. And at the end of the day, if it means that you're delivering a better service for the clients that come on board with you, then I don't think any clients would have an obstruction.
No, I think that's true. And I think with what we've done is we've streamlined the processes by doing that to make it as easy and efficient for the client. So obviously they're trying to run their business and they want to phone the accountant to ask advice. Where am I sitting at in my financials? Where's my tax position? By using like Dext, which is previously Receipt Bank that some people might know. And obviously that's how we push the purchase invoices in. Then obviously we're using bank feeds and things, and they're doing their sales in the Zero platform instead of like back in the day that they have a sales daybook or they have a sales system. Everything becomes in one place. So very, very quickly, we can sort of advise the client on a telephone call where they're actually sitting, and with like Making Tax Digital coming in place where everything's going quarterly based, then obviously it's more and more, we need now to get the information in the system as quick as possible. So we do everything on a revolving monthly cycle. So every month the client gets, a letter from us to say, is everything uploaded? Obviously they need to do it as and when, it becomes live. So they get an invoice coming there in their email or in the post. They just take a picture of it or they forward it to an inbox. Then it extracts the data, pushes through into Zero, and then obviously we reconcile everything on a monthly basis. We believe the monthly cycle is ideal for SME market. If it's anything more needed, like weekly, I don't think a business owner will look at the figures more frequent than obviously they look at their sales and their debtors, etc., on a more regular basis. But I think monthly cycle is quite efficient for the SME market, because from what we see in the market, a lot of accountants are still doing on annual cycle or quarterly cycle just for the VAT purpose, not for the financials and the
Yeah.
tax advice. So we've sort of brought that in at an early stage so we can understand their business, understand where savings are. They may phone up, we're looking to expand, we're looking to buy this. What's the best way of doing it? What's the impact on tax? So we can advise the client in their business as a key role in their business, not after the event or not be up to date with their figures. I think it's really important now, especially with everything going quarterly, the impact on them as an individual for tax purposes and obviously as a company as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. The more the kind of frequent the touch points and the more you pay attention to the business on an almost, like say, month by month basis, the quicker you're going to be able to foresee any upcoming problems and any hurdles, right?
Correct. And obviously cash flow is a big key part where
Yeah.
people have been previously using, in effect, the tax money, etc., to finance their business. With obviously HMRC bringing it in quarterly, they're not going to have that available. So cash
Yeah.
flow forecasts are going to become key. Obviously, if they're looking to expand or buy new equipment, cash flow forecasts, all the financials need to be all on all up to date and
Yeah.
ready to go. And obviously, if there's any missing information, if because it's monthly, we can obviously advise the client we're missing certain information and wait 3 or 4 months where the client might have misplaced it, or more
Yeah.
likely to find it within a month than you are if it's 3 or 4 or 5 months down the line. And obviously, digitizing it all now, so obviously they haven't got racks and files and folders everywhere with information in. They've all got it online, so they can access it, search it, find it, see what last year's costs were compared to this year's, and then obviously do cost cutting exercises and things like that. If they're looking for insurance renewals, anything like that, anything that products or services they've bought previously, then they can obviously compare it year on year quite quickly.
Cool. So, I mean, that leads us on quite nicely to what we were discussing earlier, just around the ever-changing landscape of accountancy and how that must impact not just the knowledge that you need to have as an accountant on the industry, but also how that affects your client base and your actual business. Because the harder it is for business owners to be in business, the less businesses there are, the less growth there is in the economy, the less new business startups there are, and it's in essence the less demand for accountants, right?
Correct. And I think what's going on in the UK at the minute, I think we're seeing that impact now. It isn't because of like the COVID or anything. I think with what the current government have got, I don't think anybody's interested in setting up a business at the minute. Everybody's just sitting tight with the increase in staffing costs, premises costs, all the taxes associated with them. I think in effect, I think the economy is dropping quite rapidly because we've seen a big rise in company closures because of it. You know, looking at what's going on, we're not seeing anybody that's doing a massive growth thing at the minute. I think everybody's just sitting still and seeing what's going on in the world and what's going on in the UK. People are not looking to it. There's no incentive for anybody set up. There's not any incentive for any growth. There's no funding. We're finding a lot of funding isn't happening at the minute as well for people to achieve that. I think the costs to keep obviously growing in a business, and staff costs are going up with the minimum wage keep going up as well. Then obviously you've got the national insurance contributions going up, and I think you might see like the unemployment rate go up quite rapid because obviously businesses are even less staff closures. Some of them might start small businesses as a sole trader and then develop into bigger businesses. We're not sure. We're not seeing anything like that in the minute. We're not actively looking now for clients where before we was getting in for reputation, word of mouth. So we're sort of like trying to put different advertising campaigns and things together, funnels and things like that, where we can try
Yeah.
and achieve that.
Interesting. So how do accountants or well, tell you what, how are you doing your advertising? What sort of channels do you kind of choose, and what's the thought process in that, the strategy? Where do you kind of see a return, or is it do you track that sort of the metrics, your marketing metrics?
So before, obviously, it was all done on recommendation because that's the strongest word of mouth. Where someone's in business, they recommend somebody. I think that's changing now. I think what we need to do is now, from our point of view, we never reached out. So I think we're going to start doing some email campaigns, Facebook campaigns. We've got reviews on the business, get more reviews on the business on what we're doing for clients and what we're achieving for them. Because I think then people can relate to it more. So they can see what's going on in their business and say, well, actually, we're looking for someone like that Jason and his team at Figures UK. All our clients get an account manager in how we operate as well. So they have a point of contact during working hours, they'll always get a response within 24 hours. We do that. So, there's no stopwatches or anything like that. It's all fixed fee, all agreed in advance, all on a direct debit. So that enables us, when we do that, then we can obviously try and put these different metrics in place. So we're looking to do email campaigns, for instance. So, there's softwares out there that you can get, obviously, that links with LinkedIn and things like that. So there's softwares like that you can get, obviously, decision makers information and put your metrics in that you want, and reach out and try and put them within a funnel and like a series of emails and things like that. And then obviously complement that with the advertising on Facebook and that, to try and bring that all into one place. And all of it's trackable. As you know, it's all trackable. I'm sure other accountants are doing it that way as well. And, speaking to some, still rely on the word of mouth, but I think that now, because we need to be reaching out more as a company.
Yeah.
So that's why we're sort of deciding to go down that route.
No, absolutely, absolutely. So I've got some interesting point. I'll after the call, I've got some interesting points on that for you, so I'll come back to it. But yeah, no, that's great. So then, sorry, my next question was going to be just around, as a business owner, wear many different hats, and you've got many different uh, job roles and tasks to fulfill. Have you found, or how do you segment your day? What's the most important part of the business for you to focus on as a business owner, and what do you delegate down to your team?
So the team manage the expectations and the information going in and out of the system and chasing of that information. They deal with the operation side with the client. I deal with, obviously, the tax advice, client queries as well, direct access to me, the clients get as well. I review everything as well. I do all the tax planning and things like that as well. And then obviously with marketing and things like that and IT, we have to outsource some of that, because obviously that's not our key. It's not our key forefront. We, as you say, we can't wear every hat, and we can't be pros in everything, unfortunately. We have to put, our beliefs and things into other companies to do that for us. So one of the favourite things I have when I speak to a marketing person is to come up with these costings, but none of them go back to back on, obviously, leads. So if you get a good lead, then obviously they should get payment if they've done the lead cycle right. We find that becomes a challenge, because what they say is, no, it's done on a lead basis. Is it a hot lead, or they just get bombarded with a lead, but it could just be somebody on a fishing expedition, for instance, just getting costings. So you might get charged £500 for that lead, for instance, but actually it's a tie kicker, is what I call them. It's not actually a hot lead where someone's actually genuine looking to change accountants or starting a business. So I find that in the market is a big thing. If there's marketing companies out there that do it in a different way, then let's see where they are, because I've not one yet.
Yeah, well, it's there is a lot of, at the end of the day, certainly. Well, I think this goes for most businesses. I think the number one priority is to constantly be bringing in revenue. At the end of the day, a business can't survive
Correct.
without revenue. Of course, you have to focus on the metrics, and even if you're at a size whereby you're fortunate enough that all you need to do is maintain where you're at, tread water. There's always a churn rate. There's always new customers that need to be brought into that fold, even if it's only 10-15%. If you're not at least producing 10 or 15% new clients, you're going to end up moving backwards. So no one can really, in theory, stand still. There's always got to be some focus on new business, and without that, the business does start moving backwards. So I do, as much as it's important to look at, obviously, all the metrics and make sure costs are in line, I certainly believe that there does have to be a focus on driving that business forward, getting the cash into the business and making sure the revenue's there.
Yeah, I think that's true. And I think there's obviously different ways in different businesses that needs to be done. Obviously accountants, I think, they need to reach out more to, because we're small businesses as well. At
Yes.
the end of the day, we've got staff, we've got costs and things. So we've got to get that churn rate as well. For us to survive, yes, we go from a word of mouth, and that's where we were before. But now we need to obviously change that cycle and start reaching out, because we've got a good reputation, etc. We've been in the market a long time. We're always looking for new products and innovations like AI software, things like that can help the client base. There's prepaid banking cards now that complete your accounts for you, as you spend money. There's lights of Counting Up, there's lights of Coconut for the small SMEs, the real small one-man bands that don't have huge amount of transactions. That works perfectly. It works, but then you still need to filter that information in to get the reporting right, because it's got to be manned by a professional behind the scenes that can obviously make sure it's coded right. So then when you pull the reports, it's actually correct. Then let a client, what we're seeing is a lot of accountants using Xero, QuickBooks and things like that. Let the client code everything. They go in once a quarter and they've got a massive tidy up exercise. Instead of getting involved in from the transaction by transaction basis, then the information's correct. So when you pull that report, it's correct.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, 100%. I think people, um, I've certainly found in the past people relying on software but not really knowing how to use it properly. I think that's one of the biggest keys. There's so much great technology out there at the minute, which is there to create efficiencies, streamline the business, drive it forward in the kind of the lowest cost possible rate. I think I've certainly found in the past people have tried to do it themselves, and if they don't know it right, they blame the software, and it's not the software, it's the knowledge. And when people like yourself come along that take the time to get to learn these softwares and their full capabilities, but then also monitor it on a regular basis, that's
Yeah.
when it can be used to its full potential. It's the whole using a vegetable oil in a Ferrari kind of thing. Do you know what I mean?
It's
Like,
true. And obviously, if you've got the data and the data tells you a story at the end of the day,
yeah, 100%.
and obviously then you can make decisions based on that data.
Yeah,
And, I have a saying that everybody has a spending habit. You'll fill up at the same petrol station, you do your weekly shop at the same place. Same thing happens in business. People buy their materials from the same suppliers, they buy their stationery from the same place.
yeah,
They use the same software. So then you can pre-code things. So when it
yeah,
comes through on a second time, it speeds up. And it's all about machine coding, data learning, and everything. So it's quicker and quicker and quicker. So that also helps the industry and accountancy, for instance, sort of help our clients get their information quicker to make decisions based on their business.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Uh, so just again, just kind of going into accountancy as an industry as a whole, are there any key trends you're noticing at the minute with accountancy? There's the obvious ones, I know, of course, with the budget changes that have come in recently, and I think obviously another of the big ones is going to be the whole self-employed sole traders,
Yeah, yeah. And
freelance
obviously people with
going.
property and things like that, where they're obviously going to have to report on a quarterly basis.
Yeah. So how do you? Yeah. What's your perspective on that for next year? That's surely going to cause a.
Yeah, so basically, this is why sort of we were early adopters into the sort of like software market, so that the likes of Xero, Dext, things like that will capture the information, so they can put their income in there quickly. So that will help that process. By us doing it on a monthly cycle, will resolve that burden for the client. So we're already ready for that. We've been like that for many, many years. So we've been doing this monthly cycle for like over 11 years. We've not just brought it in since COVID or anything. We always thought that the annual cycle was a bit barbaric, doing it after the event. So we've started breaking that down. And we didn't know what was going to happen, but looking at it, it's helped us in our favour. Everybody, in our team work on a remote basis. And I think now that is happening in other accountancy companies where they might have hot desk facilities, meeting rooms with the clients. We can do video calls with the clients at their convenience. So they not feel like they're going into a solicitor's office. It's more of a sort of general chat. So it should be free flowing anyway. So we should be, by us contacting our clients on a regular basis throughout the month, it's sort of like there's no burning questions. So when they pick up the phone or something and they ask, right, we're looking to do this, we're looking to buy a new digger if it's a construction worker, what's the implications, what's the tax savings? We can obviously dial in on that and say, well, we think you should finance it this way, and this is the implications. So I think that coming in, especially with property owners and things now, we're seeing there's a drop in the Airbnb market now because of new legislation and things they've brought in place. So we're finding there's a shift on that now, where before it was a buy-to-let market and it went to the Airbnb. We're seeing a lot of those sort of now closing down the Airbnb businesses and some are selling up completely, and some of them are going back to buy-to-lets.
Because they've got to go to the whole digital, making tax digital, and
Not just that, just the whole market of it. And I think now there's more legislation in that industry as well. For
yeah,
instance. they're having to do more with licensing and requirements and things like that. There's
Right.
some bad stories where people have obviously smashed properties up and it's cost them a fortune and things like
Yeah.
that, because obviously they don't know who's going in, because they've got a key safe on the wall and they give them a
Mhm.
code and then obviously let themselves in. So then they go in and then, they're finding out there's lots of issues.
Yeah. 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 It's one of those. There's a huge risk. I think there's reward, but I think people are now starting to realise the reward is not quite worth the risk, and it only takes one of your properties to get smashed up to think, well, I'm never doing that again.
Yeah, that's right. It's exactly right.
So, tell me a little bit more about future. I know you've touched upon this for Figures UK, but what kind of future goals have you got here? When you get to, you've been in business quite a while now. Do you still kind of do the whole 3-5 year goals, or do you just kind of take it a year at a time? Like
Year
how?
at a time, really, to be honest. We
Yeah,
look at a year at a time. So our next 12-month forecast that we'd like to do is obviously get the marketing and getting the clients, regular new clients coming in through
yeah,
through a sort of a funnel, get that working, get that sort of moving now. So obviously we've got built up reputation, we've got all our metrics and things, we've got all our softwares that we know that work, our stack as we call it. So then we can start now sort of evolving that and sort of going in the market a bit more. Instead of like picking up clients and clearing up other accountants' messes, which is what we do a lot of, now we can sort of like drill down and actually we can use that as some of case studies as well with some of our clients to get new business in. So our aim is to obviously grow, expand our business now, raise our head above the parapet as well. Previously, I've got involved in some fintech projects and things, beta testing, things like that, alternative banking and things like that, where they've attached accountancy functions and things in there. So I've sort of got myself around what's coming in the market. So potentially for small one-man bands, like I've said, they can pay with a card and it sort of auto completes the accounts, but it still needs to be monitored at the back end with somebody that knows what they're looking at. It's not going to do everything for them, unfortunately, but it will be a time saver for them because it's doing it from the payment point of view. So there is obviously advantages to that and disadvantages of that way as well. So that needs to be considered based on a client by client basis.
yeah,
So I think for us, we need to obviously, we've got our stack. We want to go into a bit more of the AI stuff a bit more. And
yeah,
then obviously we need to get that funnel working, getting new clients in so we can obviously maximize our growth as much as we can.
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So is revenue wise trying to look to maybe sort of double revenue in the next 18, 24 months, or do you just
Yes, I'd like to think that we can get that revenue up on a month basis and keep expanding it,
yeah.
and expanding it to keep that sort of natural flow of clients coming in.
Um,
And at the minute, do I think they're there? Not sure. I think it'll be a struggle a few months in because I think everybody's holding tight with what's going on in the UK at the minute. I think
yes.
nobody's looking to move or do anything because there's so much unsurety of what's going on and lots of U-turns and things like that happening at the minute. Everyone, I think, is just sitting still to see what's going to happen.
Yeah, I think there is a lot of that. And are there any particular industries that you guys specialize in, or is it just kind of anyone within the SME sector, or?
So we deal with a lot of construction sector, but we've got a good reputation in the construction sector, but we don't limit ourselves to any specific sector. But we've got a very good knowledge on the CIS and contractor, subcontractor market, anybody in the construction sector, electricians, plumbers, things like that, IT specialists. We've got some good ones, engineers as well. So we've
Yeah,
got a vast client base. Otherwise, it can get quite boring if you're dealing with the same thing all the time. So it's nice to have a
yeah,
bit of variety as well.
yeah. I can imagine. I can imagine, and no doubt, those in the construction space, there must be quite a few of the kind of subcontractors, self-employed sole traders that are all going to have to start making a shift to the digital
Yeah,
reporting.
that's right. That's right. That's a lot of all of our clients are using apps and taking pictures of their receipts and income and etc. They've
Yeah,
been using it for some time now,
yeah,
so they're quite well versed in it. And we've just started to put that in the early days a long time ago. And any new clients come on, they're automatically get enrolled on that same
yeah,
method.
yeah. No, it's important. You want to use technology and uh, the sole traders, self-employed individuals just have to accept that there is a new world coming, and you can complain and curse all you want, but it's not going to change anything. And what you really need to do is find an accountant that really knows the stuff, can streamline all of the effort so that it's minimal impact, and work with someone that's going to advise them the best way possible to be as tax efficient as possible. And yeah, I think someone like yourself, this got clearly proven record of working in that industry, will hopefully start to benefit and or see the benefit from that.
Yeah, we have a saying that your accountant should take 4 minutes a day maximum.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
if you
yeah,
get all your invoices together that come in the post that day or in the emails, it doesn't take any more than 4 minutes a day.
yeah,
And obviously your sales and that you're doing as you go along. And obviously you need to keep putting the sales out on a regular basis because otherwise that affects your cash flow. So that should be think, but it shouldn't take you any more than 4 minutes a day. If you've got a stack of 20, 50, 100 receipts and you're taking a picture of them, it doesn't take very long.
yeah, yeah, absolutely, 100%. It's one of those things that you just kind of, it's the job you'll always just put, oh, I'll do it later, do it later, do it later. And then you never do. And then you're just kicking yourself because you're right, because it builds up and builds up. And then you've got
Yeah, you might have receipts in one place and another receipts in the other place. It's just
yeah,
getting into that motion where you get the receipt, you take a picture of it there and then, or you open the post, it's there and then. So it's
just
dealt
do
with.
it.
And it just comes natural then. If they get into
Yeah,
that habit, it's just habit.
it is. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Brilliant. So what I always like to finish on this question because I think it's a great, and feel free to take your time to have a little bit think about the answer. But if there is one piece of advice that you could give to a young entrepreneur or someone just getting started out in business, what would that advice be and why?
So I think the key thing is to know your financials and understand the reports that you're looking at and look at them at a regular point. Work with an accountant that's going to spend time with you to understand what the figures mean in your business. Cash flow forecast is a big key thing as well, to know where your money and what the costs are coming at what points, how you're going to fund it, because that's a big key and a big problem. How much you're going to put in of your own money. If you're not going to put your own money in, how you're going to get the other funding as well. Marketing is a big thing, obviously. We've spoken about that. We're not marketers, but obviously that's a section that they need. How they're going to get the clients, how they're going to keep it moving.
Yeah.
So I think everything on the financials and different data points, the metrics, all about understanding the different reports and things and what that is. And obviously it needs to start with the correct planning and business plans and things like that as well. How it's going to be funding, startup grants, if they're available, if it's a brand new business.
Yeah.
Key points in that business, 6 months, 12 months, 24 months. If it's a young entrepreneur, then they need to consider, is there a gap in the market? Is there a need for it? They
Yeah.
need to do all that sort of research as well. And then obviously the finances should support that. So then put plans in place, put targets in place. Then you've got something to put them analytics against, actuals against, budgets and forecasts and things like that.
Yeah, no, really good advice. I think it's the numbers. Business is a numbers game. You've just got to know your numbers and you've got to know your metrics. And I think before you go into it, I think that's where a lot of business owners can get it wrong in the beginning because they bury their head in the sands a little bit. They just think, oh, it's just about, and this is the product that I want to sell. And I feel that this is a fair price to charge, and that's what I'm going to do. And they don't put more thought into how much is that cost, what sort of metric.
Yeah, and also it's not always cheaper is better either.
No,
Sometimes
absolutely.
it can be more expensive and deliver a better service or a product,
That's it.
and people will pay the premium.
That is absolutely it, and that's it. It's something that I often speak about in my own personal businesses. That it is. You don't go onto Amazon and if you're going to go and buy something or any other site for that matter and go, right, well, I'm just going to go with the cheapest option possible. You kind of have a little look around and you tend to kind of go for that mid range. You want something that's going to be good, fair price, but good value. And I think that is for me, the business isn't rocket science. There's a lot that goes on behind it. But as long as you are delivering a really good service for a fair price, I think people will always want to you'll never be short of customers. Customers will be happy if they feel they're getting good value. And that is, the be all and end all.
They just want to know how much it's going to cost. They don't want increases coming on them and extra costs or extra charges, which is known in our industry, to be honest, where they pay a price and then at the end of the year, there's another bill. Well, where's that bill come from?
Yeah.
They want to know in advance. They don't want any surprises. So that's why we agree everything in advance on a monthly direct debit. And then that dictates what we're going to do for that money. And that's it. So they know from day one when they sign up with us what they're going to get for what price.
Well, Jason, look, it's been absolutely brilliant talking to you and really, really enjoyed today's conversation. So I've no doubt that we'll keep in touch and we'll hopefully speak again another year or two and we'll keep on the progression of Figures UK. And really looking forward to kind of seeing where you guys go over the next 12 months.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you for having me on.
Brilliant. Not a problem. Take care.
Take care.